Hello, Oscar. Grandpa here, and of course, Moosey's been very naughty, aren't you, Moosey? Yeah, you going naughty? No, not really. Yeah, he's all right. Yeah, he's been good. He helps look after the study with me, and it's lots of love from me and Granny, and from Auntie Anna, who's in Spain today. And it's lovely to see you all yesterday. And thank you very much for my happy Grandfather's Day good wishes. Really appreciate that, Oscar. Thank you, and Annabelle. So I hope you're all well, and we'll carry on reading a little bit more of How to Train Your Dragon, because it's getting really exciting. We're not far from the end now, not quite there. So if you remember, Hiccup fell into the dragon's mouth, that big giganticus dragon. And there was a song from inside the stomach. Humans can be bland, but if you have some salt to hand, a little bit of brine will make them taste divine. It doesn't sound very nice. He was stuck over on a spear, wasn't he, holding up his clothes. And it's only a matter of time before it broke, and he fell to join the breezy Optimus in the stomach below. And there was his picture, looking not entirely happy with things. And I don't blame him. So, chapter 18, the extraordinary bravery of Toothless. Toothless to the rescue, by the sound of it. And that would have been the end of Hiccup, if it had not been for the extraordinary bravery of a certain Toothless Daydream. Toothless, if you remember, had refused to join in the battle at Death's Head Headland. He was intending to fly off somewhere down the coast a bit and lie low till all was safe again. But he stayed at the highest point for a while, terrorising birds and rabbits. He must have been having a lovely time doing this, for he did not hear the approach of Stoik and the entire tribes of Hooligan and Meathead until Stoik grabbed him around the neck. "Where is my son?" asked Stoik. Toothless shrugged his shoulders rudely. "Where is my son?" bawled Stoik, with an awe-inspiring yell so loud that Toothless's ears trembled. Toothless pointed to Death's Head Headland. "Show me," said Stoik grimly. Under Stoik's fierce eye, Toothless reluctantly flapped off towards Death's Head Headland, followed by the two tribes. They arrived just in time to see the terrible monster throw Hiccup high in the air and catch him in his mouth like a whelk. So much for the fiendishly clever plan, thought Toothless. He was about to use the opportunity of Stoik's obvious distraction to sneak off to a place of safety when something stopped him. Nobody knows what that something was. It was a moment which changed the whole world view of the Hooligan tribe. For centuries we have believed it was impossible for dragons to consider a selfless thought or a generous action. But what Toothless did next is impossible to explain as being in his own best interests at the time. All his fellow domestic dragons were now flying somewhere over the inner ocean. As soon as they heard Fireworm's cry of "Desert," those who were hiding in caves or between crevices or crouched in the ferns rose up in a great swarm and abandoned their former masters as fast as their wings could carry them. The wild dragons from Wild Dragon Cliff had left hours before. There's Toothless, look, he was still flying. He was going to do something to save Hiccup. I wonder what it could be, Oscar. But something kept Toothless from flying after them. Maybe it was Stoik's heart-rendingly powerless cry of "No!" that caused him to pause. Or maybe somewhere in that self-centered green dragon heart of his, he really was fond of Hiccup and grateful for the hours that he had spent looking after him, not shouting at him, telling him jokes and giving him the biggest and juiciest lobsters. "Dragons are selfish," argued Toothless to himself. "Dragons are heartless and have no mercy. That's what makes us survivors." Nonetheless, something made Toothless turn right around, and something made him fold his wings back and fly like a dragon blur to the great monster on the cliff tops. which really was not in Toothless's best interests, as I've said before. Toothless threw right up the monster's left nostril and started flying up and down the inside of his nose, tickling it with his wings. The sea dragon lunged up and down, wrinkling his nose like crazy and bellowing, "Ah!" Can you imagine somebody tickling the inside of your nose, Oscar? Ooh, drive you crazy, wouldn't it? The creature stuck his great talon up his nose in a disgusting fashion and tried to winkle out the tickling flea that was irritating him. Toothless didn't quite get out of the way of the talon in time, and it scratched him on the chest. He hardly felt it though, he was so excited, and carrying on tickling regardless, dodging the probing dragon claw. "Ah!" bellowed the sea dragon. Meanwhile, Hiccup was being thrown this way and that inside the dragon's throat as it shook its head from side to side. He was trying desperately to hang on to the spur, which was in danger of becoming dislodged any second. "Choo! Choo!" The dragon finally sneezed a tissue, and Hiccup, the spear, Toothless, and a great deal of perfectly revolting snot Oscar's horrible, isn't it? Were scattered over the surrounding countryside. Look, there's Hiccup being sent, whoa, out of the dragon's mouth. Toothless remembered, as he was shooting through the air, that boys can't fly. He folded his wings and dived after Hiccup, who was rapidly heading towards the ground. Toothless grabbed hold of Hiccup by the arm and tried to take his weight. Dragon's talons are extraordinarily strong. He was able to break Hiccup's fall, not entirely, but enough so that when Hiccup crashed into the heather, he was travelling reasonably slowly. Well done, Toothless. That's great, isn't it, Oscar? Saving Hiccup. Stoic came plunging frantically through the grass. He picked up his son and faced the monster, holding his shield over Hiccup's unconscious body. Toothless hid behind Stoic. The Green Death had recovered from his sneezing fit. He shuffled forwards, bleeding horribly from fatal wounds to his chest and throat. He lowered his terrible head till it was on a level with the cliff top, and his evil yellow eyes looked straight at Stoic. "Time to die for all of us," purred the Green Death. "You can't save his life now, you know. You are quite helpless. My fire will melt that shield like butter." The Green Death opened his mouth. He slowly sucked in a breath. Stoic tried to grab on to chunks of heather to hold them fast, but Stoic, Hiccup and Toothless were being dragged slowly but surely towards a gigantic black tunnel that was the monster's open jaws. Oh, Oscar, what's going to happen next? The Green Death paused for a moment before he blew out again, enjoying their terror. "This is what happens if you don't listen to the dragon law," shrieked Toothless to himself in horror as he peered round the side of Stoic's cloak. The monster puffed out his cheeks, and Stoic and Toothless waited for the flames to consume them. But no fire came out. The Green Death looked very surprised. He puffed out his cheeks and blew a little harder. And again, no fire. He tried once more. Now his head seemed to be turning a strange purplish colour with the effort of blowing, and it seemed to be swelling bigger and bigger, as if it was being pumped up with air from the inside. The monster had no idea what was happening. He thrashed around wildly, and his eyes bulged larger and larger, until with a bang that could be heard from hundreds of miles in every direction, the Green Death blew up, right in front of their eyes. Can you imagine that, Oscar? It actually exploded. This may seem like some sort of a miracle or an intervention on the part of the gods, but in fact there is a logical explanation. When Hiccup was hanging in the sea dragon's throat, desperately repeating, I need to live," to himself, he had taken off his helmet and had plugged the horns as hard as he could into the fire holes. It was a perfect fit. So when the dragon tried to use his fire, the blockage caused a build-up of pressure that eventually grew so great that the Green Death simply exploded. Wow. Now there were pieces of dragon flying in all directions. Stoic and Toothless were incredibly lucky not to get hit by anything, standing as close to the explosion as they were. but a single burning dragon tooth, 8 feet long, one of the monster's smaller ones, exploded straight towards Hiccup. The boy had been dragged out from under the shelter of Stoic's shield by the intake of the monster's breath, and was now lying on the ground a couple of feet in front of Stoic and Toothless, completely exposed. Stoic caught the movement of the tooth out of the corner of his eye and flung himself and his shield forward. Only a Viking could have got there in time. Shooting woodcock with a bow and arrow develops very quick reflexes. So Stoic's shield did save Hiccup's life after all. If it had not been there, the tooth would have impaled Hiccup like a prawn on a stick. Oh dear. As it was, it buried itself deep, deep, deep into the bronze centre of the shield, and quivered there, blazing with green-edged dragon flames. Stoic lifted the shield, terrified that the tooth might have pierced through to his son. But Hiccup was unharmed. His eyes were open, and he was listening for something. He was listening for a strange sound that seemed to be coming from the flaming tooth itself. It was the sound of wheezy, echoing singing, like the wind blowing through coral caves, and it went something like this. I tell the mighty big blue whale, his life is over soon. With one swish of this armoured tail, I put out the sun and moon. The winds and gales are quivering when I begin to roar. The waves themselves are shivering and trembling back to shore. Whoa! Listen, said Hiccup happily just before he passed out. The supper is singing. Look, there's Hiccup looking really happy. So the next chapter is chapter 19, Hiccup the Useful. The 400 Vikings that were now gathered on the cliff tops broke into wild cheering for Hiccup and Toothless. They were a strange barbaric sight, all covered in disgusting green snot and slime. Would you like to be covered, Oscar, in green snot, dragon snot and slime? No, don't think so. But beaming and shouting with wild delight of those that had just been saved from the certain death. All around them, the terrible fight that had just taken place devastated the landscape. A choking green-grey smoke was hanging around it, making it difficult to see. But great chunks of Death's Head headland appeared to have been torn out by the fight. Avalanches of rock were piled up on the beach. The terrible mountainous corpse of the Purple Death lay in the deeper water. Bits of the green Death's insides and bones were scattered all over the place, while large sections of the heather and ferns were still in flames. However, by some extraordinary miracle, nearly all the Vikings and their dragons had survived the dreadful battle. I say nearly because when Toothless crept forward to lick the face of his master with a flickering forked tongue, Stoic noticed a ghastly wound on the little dragon's chest, which was pouring with bright green blood. The talon of the green Death had pierced the very heart of the supposedly heartless little dragon. Toothless followed Stoic's gaze and looked down for the first time. He let out a squeal of terror and fainted dead away. Oh dear, poor Toothless. But he did save Hiccup, didn't he? 2 days later, Hiccup woke up, aching all over and very, very hungry. It was late at night. He was lying in Stoic's own great bed. The room seemed to be crowded with a great deal of people. Stoic was there, and Valharama, and Old Brinkley, and Fishlegs, and masters of the elders of the tribe. There were dragons there too, Newt's breath and Hookfang snapping and biting around Stoic's leg, and Horror Cow perched on the end of Hiccup's bed. The dragons had flown back as soon as they heard the explosion and realised the masters of Berk were masters once more. Being dragons, they'd given no explanation for their disappearance, but they did have the grace to look a little sheepish. I think they were cowards. He's alive, shouted out Stoic in triumph, and everybody began to cheer. Valharama gave Hiccup a rousing punch on the shoulder, which is the Viking mother's equivalent of a really big hug. Well, all here, said Valharama, willing you to wake up. Hiccup sat straight up in bed, suddenly very awake indeed. But you're not all here. Where's Toothless? Everyone looked shifty, and nobody would look at Hiccup. Stoic cleared his throat awkwardly. I'm sorry, son, said Stoic, but he didn't make it. He died just a few hours ago. The rest of the tribe are giving him a hero's funeral at this very moment. It's a great honour. Stoic continued hurriedly. He'll be the first dragon ever to be given a proper Viking burial. well, is he really dead? What are we going to find out? So let's actually leave it there, Oscar, for this week, and we'll read a bit more next time. Let's see how exciting it is. Nearly the end of the book, so it's lots of love from me and from Lucy and from who's saying there, bye bye, and from Granny and Auntie Anna and everybody here. To all of you, lots of love. Take care. Bye.